thank you so much for doing this interview with me, especially because you have had a busy schedule. We're just talking. When did you fly in from Vancouver?
We flew in yesterday, and it was a bit of a long day of traveling, but it was good. We had accommodations that didn't quite work out, and so it turned out we kind of lugged our bags around, and I think we settled down after maybe about 12 hours.
12 hours, and then you come to Toronto. We got the heat going. The humidity is already starting, but the heat would have been happening anyways because with you here with a new album, new music, yeah, of course the temperature is going to rise. Congratulations on the new music.
Thank you so much.
This is your third album or second?
Third independent record, yeah.
When you start to see the progression of number one, album number two, and then album number three, how does it feel knowing that your career is moving forward, but more importantly, because it's country music, Canadian country music, that definitely in the last 5 years has been exploding, you're part of this whole mix?
You know, it's not to sound cheesy, but it's a huge blessing just to know that I'm still in this industry after that amount of time and being able to still cut records and make music. And, it is a passion of mine, and I'm glad that it's still a road I get to travel and experience and change it up. This record is so different from my other albums. And as much as it is country, it's very bluesy as well. And it's exciting just to know that it's still a journey I get to have. So
I'm glad you talked about the blues part because, girl, your voice just goes wham, like it is huge. Does it surprise people when you say that you're from Canada? Because I think they would think you're like got to be Tennessee or something like that to have that kind of bluesy country voice.
It's the first type of genre music that I started singing when I first got into singing, and I think being that we cut this album down in Alabama, which is super cool, I didn't even realize exactly how bluesy it was kind of already in there until I was rubbing shoulders with the musicians and the real historic musicians from that area and era. And they're the ones that said exactly that to me. And it wasn't until the authentic dudes that played on that music with Etta James and Aretha Franklin and all these huge artists from back in the day, and they're looking at me going, "Girl, you know what? You really can sing this." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And I think that's when it really hit home. So to be able to say that I have had that experience and that this record has that type of history in it, and to be able to kind of go back to my roots and sing that style of music has been nothing short of surreal and so fun for me.
Let's go back to the roots, though, when it all began for you, originally where you're from, and that love of music, and just going from genre to genre. How did that all begin for you?
Oh, man. Well, I think like so many artists, it starts in the church, which I'm sure...
I knew it. I knew it, because I was actually, one of my questions was going to be, would you ever consider doing a gospel album?
Oh, my mother would love that. She said that for years. "Karen, you have to do a gospel album." And then I look back at her and I say, "Mom, you named me Karen Lee Batten, so it's got to be slightly country there somewhere." For me, it started in the church. I watched my dad in a band. He used to be in a band called Assurance, and I carried around his cassette tape and memorized every lyric to that tape, and started singing in the school choirs and so on, and it was always that style of music for me. And then I kind of ventured a little bit more into the rock world before I even got into country. And I think all it was just adding a little bit more grit and a little bit more grit to the soul music and kind of merged me into that rock world. And then, to be honest with you, I was single and got invited to the Marymount Music Festival by a girlfriend. And by the time I got up there, I had memorized every song that was in her tape player and loved country by the time I got to the Marymount Music Festival. And so that was the actual turning point of doing country music. And that was, I don't even want to say how long ago that was, because I'm only 25, I think.
I know you're 25, which is why I'm trying to figure out, how does she even know what a cassette is? I mean...
Oh my goodness, I know, right? I actually, believe it or not, had a Fisher-Price record player that had a 45 in it.
Okay, we all had that one.
Right?
Coolest.
Do you remember that?
I remember that because you get from consumers. These people aren't even going to know what we're talking about. But most people did follow you when we were really first introduced to you. We were introduced to you on television on a certain program.
And that's really funny because you and I talked about this right before the interview, that you worked on that too, and you were like, we would have been rubbing shoulders. You're talking about Canadian Idol back in 2003 for me.
Yeah. What season was that one? Do you remember?
Season 1.
Season 1. That was the initial one that kicked everything off, and that was, not to knock the other seasons, but that was probably to me the best one because nobody knew what was going to happen. Like, what was it like to be on something like that where everybody was, I mean, the whole country was on you guys and watching what was this about?
Yeah, that was a little nerve-wracking, and I don't think anyone really understands what it feels like to go into a 100% all day long, 24-hour-a-day competition, and I sure didn't. And so walking into something like that where you eat, sleep, and breathe competition, for me, I think it was an 8.5-month period. That was a wild road for a little bit, but it was awesome. We had a blast and ended up in the top 10, and it was good.
Yeah, no, I know I enjoyed watching it because I was lucky enough to be in the audience. I was able to interview you guys after the shows. But once the show was done, people were really eyeing. So what are these guys going to do next? Because for some people, it worked out really well. For others, it was a struggle. What was it for you?
I had been doing a little bit of music before Idol. I think that it may have even been a bit tougher, if I could say, for people who had no experience and just kind of walked off the street, and that was something that they, their mom or dad or family member said, you can sing. And so, they went and tried out and hoped for the best. I had a little bit of experience prior to that. So coming off of the show, I just was gung-ho, and I really just wanted to continue into music, and cutting records and anything I could possibly get my hands on. I still actually communicate with some of the top 10 Idol contestants of my year, and some of them are still doing music and some of them aren't. And I think, sometimes it might be tough to know what to do after something like that too, when that's your own experience and your only experience in the music industry is like a competition like that. And I think that, for the people that aren't doing anything, they're happy doing what they're doing. And I know one of them actually owns a restaurant in Cabo.
I've heard about that.
Have you? You know who I'm talking about?
Yes, I've heard about that too.
You know what I mean? That's awesome for him. Like, go for it, right? And for me, if I didn't have music, I don't think I could wake up in the morning. So that's thank goodness, because I was really not all that good in high school. So,
But the thing is, though, you understood the business side to things, not just the stage side. So that, I think, really helped progress you, because you were able to release 2 albums before the album we were talking about now.
That's right, yeah.
How did you see the progression happen for you from those previous albums to the one that we have now? How do you think you were able to grow?
I like that question. I think every album speaks to where you're at in your life in that moment. And so I do feel proud of the 3 records that I've been able to have done so far, and I don't take credit for hardly any of it, because it's the huge team of people that come together to make the record, and especially as an independent artist, it's it's cool because you almost kind of get to pick your team. And so the first record, that was what I needed to say and what I wanted to say at that point in time. Would I choose the same songs right now in my life? Probably not. If I was given the opportunity to make another record, that might not have been. But for what I was doing then, it was such an awesome time and place for me to release that. The first record is called Every Moment, which I think is kind of ironic for exactly those reasons. And then the second record was Cause a Scene. And so that's exactly what I felt like I needed to do then as well, right? Really, had something to say, and I wanted to cause a scene. And it was a bit more upbeat, a bit more rocker, and even down to the photography that we chose and so on. And I think it's interesting because you can kind of see like the life story as it kind of goes along. And then this record was like a 6 Degrees of Separation album. It was such a cool, I don't know, it's a really hard one for me to explain, and I love the fact that we actually did a documentary on it as well, and so we did film the record being cut, and I think I'm glad about that because the listeners and viewers can understand why it's tough for me to even try and explain it. I got to stand in exactly the same place like artists like Aretha Franklin and Etta James and Bob Dylan and, you know, just some of these amazing, outstanding artists that we all know today, and stand in the same place that they sang their song, sing the same song in the same studio, and look out on the floor and see the same musicians on the same instruments playing the song that, you know, became great that we know today, you know, like Do Right Woman by Aretha Franklin. And I got to stand there and sing that and record it and look out, and it's the same guy, Clayton Ivey, playing the same whirly, sitting in the same place. And so it's a hard, very surreal, very cool record that I feel nothing but proud of with everyone that was on that team. And it was one of those, like, you know, give you goosebumps, like, day in and day out the whole time that we were cutting it. And so I feel so proud to talk about it. I feel proud to sing it. It's songs that I want to sing for the rest of my life, you know, and I think that that it's a forever album, you know, and I hope that I can make many more, but I'm very proud of the current one right now at hand.
Okay, I want to make sure lead track of this, the first single released was?
The first single was Sweet Home Alabama. So Leonard Skinner recorded tracks at Muscle Shoals, or in Muscle Shoals in Fame, and that's where we did the album as well. And his original tracks were put away in a cupboard, and they're on a reel. And I don't even think that many people know exactly what was on them, but all the tracks on the record were tracks cut by people that recorded in Fame Studios. And so we picked, all the songs were done from those artists.
I cannot wait to hear this. I know we got to go social media-wise. Where do we go to follow you?
So Instagram is just my name, Karen Lee Batten, and same with Facebook. We have a fan page, and Twitter. It's all just Karen Lee Batten, easy peasy.
So happy we had a chance to talk. Let's talk some more, too, throughout the year and next year on the next album, next and next. Thank you again for the interview.
Thanks, Rudy. I appreciate it.